Hey folks, it's Eddie G, DM Fumble, and this is another edition of Fumbling Around, where I look at all things related to Dungeons & Dragons, Dragonlance, or whatever else suits my interest. Today I'm going to do an unboxing of the Beadle and Grimm Dragonlance Shadows of the Dragon Queen Steel Edition. In a moment I'm going to get that started. I'm going to switch this camera to an overhead view so you won't have to look at this face anymore until the very end. In the meantime, enjoy this look at the Shadows of the Dragon Queen Steel Edition from Beadle and Grimm. Welcome to the unboxing of the Beadle and Grimm's Steel Edition of the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Before we get started, let's take a look at the actual box itself. First of all, we have a logo up here that pretty much follows the trade dress for all the Beadle and Grimm's products. We have a central logo here that has a number of kind of iconic Dragonlance elements, some of the Celtic knotwork that you see indicative of other designs through the products. Nice little image of Lord Soth here in the center, and of course we've got a Dragonlance running through it. We see the whole thing is surrounded in flame, but I would have preferred purple flame, and if you've read the module you would know why I allude to that, and I'm not going to go into any details because I do want this to be spoiler free as much as possible. Last thing I want to point out is it's called the Steel Edition, and when Beadle and Grimm's releases their products, they usually give it a title such as the gold, platinum, silver, whatever it might be. But this one they're calling the Steel Edition to make reference of the fact that steel is the standard unit of currency on Krynn. So I think that's a great little nod to the Dragonlance setting. Beyond that, we have on the side here the title of the box set, which is great because it's going to spend most of its time on my shelf until I actually get to use it in game or games. Maybe I'll get a chance to run this multiple times. Beyond that, we've got a back image that features a wood plank and this hummingbird image. We have nothing else on most of the sides. And then, of course, on the bottom, we'll have identification that it's a Dungeons & Dragons product, Wizards of the Coast. Okay, so with that said, let's actually open the box. Slides off nice and smooth. This is a heavy cardboard material, not like the old box sets that TSR used to make in the past. This is definitely durable enough for all the components, which do have a nice bit of weight and heft to them in the box. So this, again, should stand the test of time for your purposes. Last thing I'll point out about the box itself, inside it has this nice scale pattern inside, and just a nice little extra nod on the inside that takes a little extra work to get that in there, and it shows in the quality of the product. So we have some bubble wrap. Pop, pop, pop. I will be doing that later. In the meantime, bubble wrap, keep things nice and secure. Next, we have this first book, which is basically, it's a checklist. So we have a little bit of background on the history of Dragonlance in the first module. And this is coming from the creators and owners of Beadle and Grimm's. And then also what we can find in the box. So we're going to see here the books broken down into its various sections, some area maps and dungeon maps, things like that, along with some of the artifacts or the hardware that we're going to have in the box, encounter cards, and then, some other information. This is a great way to see all of the details that you have and can expect in this box set. Of course, you can also see a few of the other things that you can order from Beadle and Grimm's. Also in the book is this Tales from the Warehouse. This represents bonus encounters. This is not included in the actual Shadow of the Dragon Queen module. This is additional content direct from Beadle and Grimm's that is used to help enhance the module that we have. So we'll look at that in a little more detail in a moment. Let me just put this aside. Next up, we have a bunch of art cards that I'm going to go through. There. We have, put these all out. We have encounter cards for all of the creatures, NPCs, NPCs, good and bad creatures that we can encounter. If they have an image, if they have a stat block, we're going to see a card for that in this pile. A little bit more of that bubble wrap. Next up, we've got a few pieces of, a few items. These are some of the nice hardware that we get. This is a coin of Shannari. So this is, I think, supposed to represent the standard unit of currency, the steel coin in Kryn. We'll look at that in a little more detail. This is the holy symbol of Paladine. And we have an image of that in the main book. So we have it here as well as a player handout. This, of course, is the holy symbol for the Dark Queen, Takhisis herself. And lastly, we have this, supposed to be a badge of office. This is one of the organizations the players can become a member of or just work in alliance with during the middle and late parts of the adventure, the Esquire of Kalaman. We've got a bunch of handouts up here. We're going to go through that. We've got a bunch of battle maps. We'll go through that. This actually represents some additional handouts. Just some hard cardboard to keep everything nice and organized. Some more handouts. This in the form of letters and correspondence and other things. We'll look at this in more detail. Got some nice maps that the players can leverage. And again, we're going to go through all these in detail. And lastly, we have the book itself, the module book, broken up into chapters. So, one second. Oh, one last thing. We have this item here. This appears to be a banner. Again, I believe this is for the Forces of Good, maybe from Kalaman. It is a symbol of a hummingbird on a blue background. I'm not exactly sure what this is in reference to. So if you know, maybe leave a note in the comment. I have only read the module about halfway, so there might be some things about this that I don't know yet. This is here. This is the back of the box. Again, leveraging the same pattern. So let's take a moment, and then we're going to start looking at the components one by one in more detail. So the first book we have here, taken from the actual module itself, is Chapter 1, Character Creation. And as we go through this real quickly, you'll see that this is an exact reproduction of what is in the hardback for Shadow of the Dragon Queen, just broken out into this one particular chapter. Why is this a great idea? Because if you have people making characters and they're leveraging the hill dwarves and they want to know more about it, they can read this chapter in this particular section. If they want to know about other people, the elves, the gnomes, so forth, they've got those sections. They've got the organizations such as the mages and the related feats and backgrounds that they would take to make their characters either a mage or a knight of Solamnia. And of course, we have the information on how to create a kender, which is going to be in here. I thought this was earlier on, but anyway, we've got the information on how to create a kender and the kender hopak weapon, or hupak, I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it. But anyway, the important part here is that anyone who is playing a character and who needs this information, you can just give this to the player. They can leverage everything they have and not have to worry about them seeing parts of the book you don't want them to see. The next book we have, the next division of the hardback, is the book that we have here that takes out the prelude chapter, War Comes to Krynn, as well as chapter 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the beginning of the module. This is definitely DM territory. War Comes to Krynn is a bit of a background information, and I actually would have probably liked to have seen that over in the chapter 1 character creation, because there is stuff here that I don't think is private from the players, and it does give them some great background on some of the history of Krynn before the cataclysm. Maybe this is stuff you want to give them if they want to delve deeper into Krynnish lore, or if you're planning on doing more beyond just the Shadow of the Dragon Queen adventure module here. This definitely gives them some great background here. Again, covers everything that you expect from that particular chapter. Then we go into, the various gods. We get to see all their symbols. There's that symbol of Paladine that we actually have a physical component for. And then we go into the actual module, starting with chapter 2, leading through chapter 3. Again, this is just reproduced from the hardback. Chapter 4 and 5. Again, this is all the module itself. This definitely leverages the fact that we have crossed one threshold when we left chapter 3, and now we're starting a whole new component of the module. So I do like the fact that we've got that earlier part in that chapter 2 and 3 section, and now we've got chapter 4 and 5 in here. Also, by breaking it down like this, it makes it very easy to keep just the section you need. Doesn't have to get too complicated. By using the staple stitch here, the book, for the most part, lays flat. So we don't have too much of a bending information inside. But otherwise, this is exactly what we would see in the hardback version. Next, we have chapters 6 and 7. This takes us to the finale of the module. So again, we're getting into that end game scenario where stakes are higher, players are doing a little bit more. They're finally getting to the City of Lost Names, which we know is a major destination, and the finale at the Siege of Calaman. Otherwise, just like what we expect before, all of the module here as is laid out in the books, and still lays flat, broken up into just what we need to run these two particular sections. The last section that we have is actually the appendices. And here we get, things such as the gear and the magic items. So we do get the material for how much a Hopak costs and what does it do in terms of its properties and damage and so forth. We get some of the gnomish inventions. As I mentioned in a previous video, some of these inventions actually go back to the first edition Dungeons & Dragons, Dragonlance Adventures hardback. So it's nice to see those come back all the way here. Friends and foes, we get some random encounter tables, various creatures that we could face off. NPCs are all statted here. Again, just like we see in the book, but broken out into just what we need here. This is also great because we can keep this with us as we're running whatever other chapters we're running. And, if it says here it references something, maybe we come over to this book. So we can lighten our load by just taking the pieces that we need to run the module for that particular session. And we're going to see some other tools from Beadle and Grimm's that make it even easier, I think, to run some sessions. Something that Beadle and Grimm's typically does in all their products, they take the module art out of the book and they give it its own little sheet. In this case, we've got 2 pieces of art on one page. You'll see we've got a piece of art, maybe an upside down piece of art here. So what we can do here is we can actually put this over our DM screen and use it to help set the mood for whatever particular pieces of art are relevant to that session. Also on the inside, we'll see that for each piece of art, we have a description of what it is, who the actual artist was and where we can find it. In this case, we can find this particular piece of art about elves in chapter 1 on page 5. So there's a lot of great pieces of art here, again, that are just from the book that don't actually reflect a specific creature or character and are just there to help us set mood. So we've got some of that. Here we've got this beautiful image of, what is this actually? Oh, okay, so this is people approaching the town of Gateway. And we can see how massive that is with this big giant uprooted tree and buildings behind it. If they're going there, this is a great way to help describe that scene with your words as well as with this image. I don't believe these images should replace the value of DMs, but it can certainly help augment it. Got some stuff here with Lord Soth looking into a mirror and seeing someone. I'll keep the spoilers to a minimum. We've got a villain, definitely, riding a red dragon, attacking some hapless heroes, and unfortunately, maybe one less hero in the party. Some other images here, again, all straight from the book. A mirror, character that is a key NPC for us as we move through the module, and more images. I'm not going to go through all of them. I will stop here because I do like this one. This is a massive image, or this image shows a mass of the Red Dragon army at some location that the PCs probably want to get into that valley. Again, avoiding spoilers. So this really can help set the scene of how daunting a task that might be if you're trying to go through this particular army. So again, all the images are here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but if it was in the book, it will be here. Next up, we have, similar to the images from the book, we have these, which are the creature cards, basically. If it is a creature that we will encounter in the module or that your players are going to encounter in the module, we have an image for it. And then on the back side, we have what it is, description that you can use as part of the read aloud text to describe it, all the stats you need to help run it as the DM, and there is nothing on the inside because, again, these are meant to either be a table tent that you could show to your players, hang it over your DM screen, however you want to leverage this. But again, great way to instantly pop out and let them know what they're encountering and for you to know how to run it. I'm not going to go through all of these. There is a huge stack. Again, everything is in here. Draconians, NPCs, various dragons, undead creatures. If it's, again, if it's in the module, if it has stats, we have a card for it. And it's including NPCs, including some that are not so favorable to the party, some that are definitely favorable and allies to the party, as well as, of course, various straight up enemy creatures. Alrighty, so again, there's about 60, I believe, of these cards that you'll be able to leverage during all of your encounters for Shadow of the Dragon Queen. What we have here is Tales from the Warehouse. Now, this is exclusive to the Beadle and Grimm box set. So something that they always do, at least I think even going back to the very first box set, is they add additional encounter content to all their offerings. And this is also the case here. So what we have here is we have 3 different encounters that we can use to leverage during chapter 4 of the module, and we can use it to add a little bit more content. If you're having fun and you want to do a little bit more, there is definitely unfinished business contained in here with these 3 extra encounters. So we get the encounters, we get the maps that you need as a DM to run it, and whatever creatures you might need are going to have extra stat blocks in here. Next up, we have a bunch of battle mats. I'm going to go through these one by one. These are exclusive to the box set, but pretty sure these are just enlargements of artwork that's already in the module itself. So they've just gone to work to make the mat for you from the image. This one represents something called the Threshold of the Heavens, 4th floor. Nice thing is all these battle mats are double-sided. So same place, but the 5th floor. This is a smaller battle mat, probably around 18 by 18. Actually, it looks like more like 20 by 20 overall. But this is a smaller map. We've got some that are more traditional size. Next up, we have a more traditional size battle map. And unfortunately, because of the limitations of my technology at this time, I can't show the whole map. It is probably more like a standard 2 feet by 3 feet, something like that. Maybe a little bit shorter than that. But again, this takes place in one of the key areas in the adventure. This one known as Blue Mall Cave. So you can see all of that covering here. Nice thing about battle mats that I've always loved is that you can use it for the adventure as written, but you can see there's a lot of openness and empty space here for you to make it whatever you want. You've got some crystal formations, you've got some stairs leading down, you've got an area of, dirt or sand or whatever this might be in your reimagining of what this might be. I know what it actually is for the module, but in this reimagining, you can make this whatever you want. And, maybe even branch off something here into another deeper part of the module or of your own module. So again, always love the reuse value of any battle map that I can get my hands on. So, and this is no different. And the other side of it is known as the ground floor of the occupied mansion. This goes up to a 2nd floor, and we'll see actually a second battle map for that 2nd floor later on. Again, still standard size. I think I'm getting most of it in frame as I move around to accommodate that. Again, as this channel grows, I do hope to get better equipment and be able to do this easier and give you more quality in the unboxing videos. Anyway, we've got a smashed up area up front. We've got all kinds of damage here. Plenty of room to, again, customize this for whatever we want later on in its reuse value, as well as use it for its intended purpose for this particular module. Now we're back with another smaller battle map. Again, maybe about 2 feet, not sure. This is that 2nd floor of the occupied mansion. So we were looking at the ground floor. We come up that stairs, and we've got a few key encounter locations on the 2nd floor that we can leverage. So again, that's this side of the map. On the back, we find ourselves in an underground area, passageway known as the Path of Memories. So we've got that. Apparently this is more going on here, but I guess this represents just the key encounter that we need in this particular location. Next, we have another large map. Again, doesn't fully fit in frame here, but it is the Wheel Watch Outpost, which is one of the key objectives in one of the chapters that the players have to assault. We've got the full map here from the top of the outpost to the bottom of it as it starts to come into frame. All the information here. Any outpost can certainly be reused for other purposes beyond what is needed for this particular adventure. So again, great reuse value on this map. And on the back, we have a very large map of the Bastion of Tikhisis with the entryway, big giant area here in the center, bunch of broken up rooms and ruins to look through as we explore this area. Again, beautiful purple flame in the center here with some nice dragon imagery in the back here. It's 5-headed, so clearly it is meant to be something related to Tikhisis. Again, definitely love this battle map. Look forward to being able to use this in-game for this particular session, as well as for other modules of my own creation. Next up, we have a small map, this time of Wakenreth. Particularly broken up area. Clearly there's some crypts here. Not sure what's inside this big one over here, but Definitely some interesting areas. Looks like there's some debris maybe blocking our paths, only allowing us to go in certain directions, but nice little map that we have here. On the back, we have raided catacombs. This is the final encounter area. You can see parts of it leading up to this, but this is the key encounter room with, again, a little bit more of that purple flame that we are so interested in. And looks like maybe something here. Not sure, but we'll see. We'll see when we actually get a chance to run this module. Last map we have on our list is nice size one. It probably comes in at around 11 by 17, maybe a little bit larger than that. This one is the Sunward Fortress. Nice big cavern, couple of areas, some steps coming down. I'm guessing this is where the PCs are coming from. Some debris over here, ways to get across here. Something nice and interesting over there. Again, I don't know exactly what encounter this is for, but this has enough interesting, exciting bits here that we can easily reuse this. The backside of this is called the Flying Citadel Sanctuary. And this looks like it's actually maybe two maps. I'm seeing this line that runs down the center. Oh yeah, this is the Sanctuary. Let me turn it sideways here. This is the Sanctuary on the top above this line. And then below the line is the Burial Vault. So we can definitely get value out of this. Just, fold it in half. If you don't mind marring up your maps. When you're running this, you can show just the relevant section that you need for your players as they approach this. All total, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 map pages. Remember, each map is double-sided, so we have 12 battle maps of different sizes, and all useful for the module, as well as being able to be reused after the fact. I am a sucker for battle maps, so this is definitely something I'm very stoked to see and be able to, again, use repeatedly. Next thing I want to look at is what I call the hardware. These are the physical props that we get that have heft and weight to them. This one, I think this is supposed to represent a steel coin. Again, that being the standard unit of currency in Dragonlance, especially on Ansalon. As I mentioned before, this is the holy symbol of Paladine. I like that image. It's gray, and then it has silver, again, with a little bit of Celtic pattern inside those 3 triangles, or 3 lines that create that center triangle. Here's our symbol of Takesis. We've got, obviously, the 5 colors that represent the different dragon heads, and nice little circle binding them all together. Each of these 2 holy symbols do have hooks on them, so we can run some kind of rope or cord or even a chain if you have that, so that players or NPCs could be wearing these. Lastly, this is supposed to, I believe, represent the badge for a member of the basically Kalaman militia in the city of Kalaman. This also, the back side of it shows the city symbol. This is supposed to represent the city of Kalaman. And then this is what you are. You are a member of the militia. This does not have any kind of hook on it, so there's no way to actually wear this, nor is there a pin on it. But it's still just a nice little badge to have. Maybe there's a way you can make up a little see-through pouch or something to make this usable or wearable. But all nice items. And I love props, and I love those kind of things. So I'll definitely be getting uses out of that. Speaking of props, one of the last things we have to look at is some of the props and handouts for our players. So, first we have a section of these little cards here. Square cards. Each one of these cards is a different god. And on the back, we have the god's name, background, little description. Again, I'm pretty sure this is straight out of that prelude section from the opening chapter of the hardback novel. So if you have somebody playing a Cleric of Paladine, you can just hand them this, and they can read the information, keep it on hand. We've got all the gods of good, Paladine, Brancala, Habakkuk, Kirijoleth. Again, we go through all the gods of good. We go through the gods of evil. We've got the neutral gods here as well. Riorix, of course. So all of our gods are accounted for with these blue style cards. Next, we have the different orders of the knighthood. Same concept. We've got the order, the symbol, the title, description. Again, just straight lifted from the book, handed to the player as they need to read up on their background, especially what is important to that particular knighthood. This doesn't have the particular game stats or any of the game feats that are related to Knights of the Crown, the Knights of the Sword, and so forth. Those are actually in that chapter 1, character creation background. But this is, again, nice little play aid to help them maybe start getting into the role-playing aspect of whatever knighthood they're in and joining. After those three, we end up with, of course, the 3 orders of the mages, the white, the red, and the black robe. Again, all the same image, because they all share that common image, just a different background. We get the description as we would expect for them to, understand what their mage affiliation is like. Now, we also have a few extra blank cards, completely blank on both sides. I'm not sure what these are for. Possibly you could use this to write additional information, but these cards are a little glossy, and I don't think these are going to take pen or Sharpie very well. So, maybe test one out before you try it. Again, I'm not sure why they're in here, but they're here to possibly use in whatever creative ways you as a DM can think of. Next, I'm going to look at these little books. We have 5 of them, which is just the same number of PCs a typical party would have. Coincidence? I don't think so. On the front of the cover, we have this kind of faux leather cover here, stamped with what appears to be the symbol of Calaman. And then back is just plain, staples on the side, a couple of pages on the inside. What we have here is a book that is, you write your character's name here. We can see that this person has joined the Calaman Special Forces. They are the Esquire of Calaman. That's the coin that we looked at, or the badge. This tells them what they promised to do. This actually tells them what they're going to entitle to. Free lodging, 5 gold pieces a week. There's where they can sign off on it. What's nice here is they've got little pages, a couple of pages, just a few pages to write down little mission reports. So as they're doing some of the missions in, I believe it's chapter 3, they can detail that. And even chapter 4 has some missions that they might be reporting on. They can use this book to detail what one character sees versus the report book or the report log of a different character. Just a great little way to add extra verisimilitude. And this could be a great way to encourage additional role-playing from your players as their characters. Next up, we have a few small pages here that are just great informational pages for the DM. They're single-sided, which is great because now we can actually either tape this or clip this onto our DM screen. So this gives us background on all the peoples of Krynn, the types of people. So Kender, what's the notes about them in a nutshell? What about Sea Elves, so forth? Sea Elves are known as Darganesti or Dimernesti. high elves, wood elves, things like that. So again, great way to help add more of the detail of Krynn if you're not familiar with the particulars of the races. Similarly, we have a top section here on the organizations. The two ones for this module obviously are the Knights of Solamnia and the Mages of High Sorcery. We can also see what the patron gods of each of those organizations are. So we can see here that the Knight of Sword is under the patronage of Kiri Jolith, and the White Robe is under the patronage of the god Solinari. The bottom half of this gives us the Dark Queen's forces at a glance. So we know all of the key players in the invasion of Krynn, from Takesis, Ariakis. I'm not sure if he's in this module at all, but certainly the name is important going forward. Soth. Here's the list of the High Lords as they currently are at this time period in the module, and some of the other smaller players overall, but I think these are all key players in the module. So nice to have that, have their names, and a little bit of background. What would have been nice here, actually, is I know in the one book we have a pronunciation guide. It would have been nice if they could have squeezed the pronunciation so we know how to pronounce Salah Khan's name. And I'm just guessing on that. And Bellerophon. Again, I might be mispronouncing that one and so forth. So it would be nice to have included that pronunciation in here next to these particular names so that we're calling them properly. Next up, we have the City of Kalaman. Again, another nice little page. We can easily fit this in our DM screen, and it's small enough so that if you use the shorter DM screens, not the ones that go full height, ones that only go about, I think, like 7 or 8 inches high, these will still fit in there without any problems at the bottom. This one is the City of Kalaman overview. Gives us different places the players might be interested in. The inn, a newspaper office, great way to get some information. The smithy, taverns, multiple ones if they're looking for a little bit of feasting, and whatever else they might need in the City of Kalaman. The last little thing we have here is not really meant to be a page on the DM screen. It is a quick reference for the DM, and what it's meant to do is it's meant to reference the information or the other accessories that we have in the box set related to each particular chapter. So chapter 1 is pretty, the background of character creation, and for that one you might only really want to leverage the Ansalon poster map. This is the same poster map that you get in the back of the hardback, but we have another copy here as well. When we get into chapter 3, or chapters 2 and 3, we're actually into the module. We can see what artwork might be relevant to that opening chapter, what handouts are going to be useful for that, and what encounter cards we can see. So we know that in chapter 2, we might need some of our draconian encounters, as well as in chapter 3, we've got other creatures and NPCs that we might encounter, good and bad. And this goes through all the chapters, all the way through the end of the book, chapter 7. And then finally, we're just reminded of some of the miscellaneous items that we have. The DM aids, which are the 3 pages that we just looked at. The sidekick pages, which we're going to look at. And of course, they call it jewelry, I call it hardware. All of the hard bits that we have here. We're just reminded about what those are. Next up, we have a world or a continent view of Ansalon in this very large map. Again, it can't fit it in my full field of view here, but it is the map that you get in the hardback. And it covers the entire continent, all the way from the tip top of Nordmar, all the way down to the typical ice wall reach section that we have down here. All of the different places that you've seen on many other maps, if you have any other maps, are included on here, which is great because, again, when you're making your character, you can start to key into where you might want to have someone come from, even though the module itself really only focuses on this top section up here. You get the whole view. Again, great player aid, great DM aid, especially if you plan to run more adventures in Dragonlance afterwards. You're up here to begin with. Maybe your next campaign, you want to go all the way over to Northern and Southern Urgoth and see what's going on over there, especially this little place of Hilo, which is where a bunch of Kender live, because we love Kender. Anyway, great map. Definitely, you'll get plenty of use out of it. Next up is a smaller map. This is the City of Lost Names, one of the key encounters that we want to the players to get to in their adventure path. And we can see the map. We can see where they could possibly be going. There is no markings on here, so this is definitely a player-friendly map. And on the back, we've got a section for travel notes, so the players could take notes. This does not look to be erasable, so be wary about what players mark on here. This may be a one-use only map if you let them write all over it and draw all over it. Next, we have a stack of maybe about a dozen or more different in-game handouts. These represent notes or correspondence back and forth between various players and NPC, mostly NPCs, that the players will come across in their travels. So we can see this is a letter from Baccarus the Younger to his father, and I believe this is intended to be either spoken as a note that they find, but now you can actually make it a player aid that you can hand to the player when they come across it. Similarly, we have a note here from Darrett, one of the key NPCs the players work with, telling them to meet up at a certain location because Baccarus is doing something. Again, this is supposed to be a note that you mentioned is being delivered. Now you can actually have it delivered to the players. We've got a few more here. I don't know if I'm going to go through every one in detail, but some of these are interesting. This represents a letter, I believe, from the opening prelude chapter. This gives us some background. I'm sorry, no. This actually represents a letter from Becklin, one of the key NPCs early on in the module, to each of the players. The idea is that one of the inciting incidents that starts off the module is everyone going to the funeral for a mutual friend, Ispin Greenshield. This is a letter from Becklin informing the player, or informing the PC, that Ispin has passed away. One nice thing is you could actually maybe even make multiple copies of this, and borrowing from an idea from another game that I was in, mail it out. So I, long ago, was in a Vampire the Masquerade game, and the storyteller wanted to get us in the mood for the adventure that was going to be happening that weekend. She actually mailed out letters to our home addresses. Inside each letter was a letter addressed to our PCs. And then in that was an invitation to attend this event, which was going to be, vampire related and important and blah, 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 and so forth. This could, you could do the same thing possibly here, mail these to your players, especially if you're meeting in person, and let them know that the game is afoot, as Sherlock would say. We've got something from the commander of Wheelwatch Outpost, talking about what's going on in that particular section, that particular location, which does lead, I believe, into the encounter where we have to go investigate. Something from Lord Soth. Here we've got a folded piece of paper. This is actually a note from Nicholas of Palanthus, assistant to the librarian. And this is one of the pieces of in-game lore that talks about the cataclysm as it relates to some of the areas that the players will encounter during their adventure. So again, They could come across this in a book. Maybe they're doing research on background, or maybe you just want to give this to them to let them know some of the history of the world, but give it to them in game instead of just lecturing them. Oh, this is a nice one. This looks like it is a crudely drawn map of Wheel Watch Outpost. We know the PCs are going to go there to confront something, and they have to get inside, and apparently they have to do something with these gate controls. Again, I'm trying not to spoil too much, but this is a great little prop that'll let them know, oh, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to maybe assault from two sides or plan whatever else. And it does warn you that there are patrols on the walls here. So a great little handout prop that can get the players, more deeply invested in what their goal is here at this location. And then, as I mentioned before, we do have the full-size battle map of Wheel Watch Outpost for when they get into that particular encounter. Here we have a nice map of Hinterland, and it is, Kalaman, Volgar. These are some of the early locations that the players are at, the rivers and so forth that feed out into Kalaman Bay. And it looks like it's done in a nice watercolor image. So again, it looks like it's, hand-drawn. Really like this. Again, could easily be used for this module, of course, but then also has plenty of reusability. If there's something over here, you can have them leverage this map as a way to navigate certain areas. And of course, we know who lives in Dargar Keep, especially if we're fans of the Dragonlance setting and Lord Soth. Okay, next up we have a series of letters. And I want to save this one for the last. These all appear to be correspondence going back and forth between various people in the Red Dragon army. We can see Takisa's logo down here, along with the parchment, the letters here that the players can come across. More back and forth conversations. Captain Ire, the Dragon Queen's will, and so forth. Consaldi, and so forth. We get to even see a status report draft from one of the NPCs in the module. Again, all one-sided. Next, we have 2 blank pieces of parchment. I'm not sure what these are for. I'm not sure if these are so we can create our own notes as the DM to further lead players into whatever directions we need to, or if these are things that the players get access to if they want to create false reports. So they might be able to write something up in real time. Again, these are not erasable, so it's one-time use only, but nice to have these little extra pieces of paper for, however you want to use them. The last item I want to point out here is this note that we have here. It is almost the same concept. We've got the Takisis logo up here, so it's not the good guys talking, and it's saying, "Congratulations, heroes of Kalaman." And this looks to be, without spoiling too much, the kind of, you've succeeded today, but tomorrow I will get my revenge, blah, ha, 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 type note. Especially if you want to do follow-up adventures, this is a great way to help kick off the idea that there is still more going on in the Dragonlance world. Next up, we have a little document that seems to be describing some areas about the Northern Wastes section of the map, and what to expect when you encounter this. So this could be a document in a book that they come across, letting them know all the different kinds of predators that they can come across: man-sized scorpions, sharks and spiders, harpies, vultures, so forth. A great way to, again, help pull them into what they're going to encounter when they go into that particular area. Next up, we have Hammerstrike Forges. That was one of the locations in Kalaman, And clearly it's if players need something like armor or weapons, we can see what is available and what the cost is. And that great little tagline, grab what you can while they last. So this could be a notice hanging on a wall. This would be great if you are actually playing at your house. You can just put this on the wall, have it there the whole time you're playing the campaign, and whenever they're in Kellerman, they can come over here and see what Hammer Strike Forges has to offer. Again, one-sided. All these handouts have been one-sided. Rosamund, this is another letter that comes from the opening chapter. So again, it's more about the background of the cataclysm and could be someone that they've encountered in their readings. Next, we have a flyer for the Kingfisher Festival, Battle of the Bards Story and Song Competition, sponsored by the Brass Crab. Brass Crab is one of the key locations in the city of Volgar. This takes place during the Kingfisher Festival. This is great because this is, again, a flyer that can be posted on the wall early in your campaign, but as the players are there. And the Battle of the Bards is actually in an upcoming document we're going to look at, one of the suggested additional encounters you can run in the city of, or in the village of Volgar during the Kingfisher Festival. And lastly, we get another letter from Becklin. Next up is, we looked at the art cards earlier. All the art cards I've ever seen from Beadle and Grimm's are that standard size, fold over, so it's almost like a 4x6, maybe a 5x7. This is the one that's huge. This definitely involves, I think, the final parts of the module, the Siege of Calaman. We can see Calaman soldiers with their symbols on their shields as they're scurrying along up here. And in the background, clearly we are looking at some kind of flying citadel. So that'll be cool to be able to show this to your players during the module, especially when the citadel is rolling into the city for that final part of the adventure. Next, we have a few one-page documents. And these seem to be some additional content, at least these first two pages, are additional content courtesy of Beadle and Grimm's. This one gives us the idea of some additional festivities we can use in the Battle of the, Kingfisher Festival, the Battle of the Bards. We saw the flyer for that earlier, a ring toss, a dance, generous hosts, and so forth. And then notes if you want to actually create any additional festivity games for yourself. In another video, I did point out that you could leverage other modules if you have access to them, such as the Call of Netherdeep has a town festival with some games in there. And then someone else pointed online to me that the Wild Beyond the Witchlight has a carnival with some carnival games that you might be able to leverage in the town for this festival. But here's a little bit more content. Next up is if you plan to have combat in the air. It is not a detailed rules set, but it does give you some ideas to consider when you're doing sky combat, mounted, dismounting, jumping onto another mount or creature in the air. Now that's got to be kind of cool and fun. I'm sure someone's going to think of that. Grappling. This is a 2-page. So again, we've got this here, and then we've got the idea of the various dragonelles that we might have, saddles and notes. So, if you want to have a little bit more cinematic component to some of your battles, there is clearly some room here to accomplish that, and some thought and ideas are given to you to prepare for how you might want to handle that. Next up, we have the sidekick pages. Now, we looked at their cards earlier. We looked at them actually in the appendices chapter, but here we get them each as their own individual page. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the idea here is that we've got the piece of artwork, we've got the first level stats for this sidekick, the background, And then on the back, handy, we've got how that character advances beyond 1st level. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way up to 11th, but the new features that they gain access to, and a little bit more artwork, or great sword, things like that, just to help inspire. So if you are using sidekicks and you are letting one of the PCs run them, I typically do let my players run sidekicks. You can easily hand them this sheet. They can keep the sheet and have all the stats that they need. One less chore for you to do. All the sidekicks from the book get their own individual sheet, as we have here. And that rounds out this particular section. Okay, one other page I misfiled. This is the Night of Terror. Again, this is some additional encounters that you can run in Chapter 7. This is the just before, I guess, the Siege of Calaman. Letting them know as the anxiety increases what's going on in the city. People start dueling, people are grave digging, whatever it might be. Again, they're going back to blaming the Solomnics for the state of the world. So, great way to help ratchet up the anxiety and the tension before you do that final battle, and hopefully a successful end to the campaign. All right, let's just go over these two real quick. These are 2 maps of key places that you encounter in the module. This is the Village of Volgar, and this is the Lord City of Calaman. So right from the book, we've got all the key locations marked out, as well as in here. These are nice and glossy, so I do think you could probably write on here and erase. Test it first, somewhere off to the side where it's not going to leave a permanent disfiguring mark on these maps, but these might be reusable in that regard. So very nice to have that. And even if you don't use them for that purpose, you can just give them to the players, and then they can decide, we're over here at the fishbowl. We want to go down by the dockside to the Brass Crab, or especially if they're in a larger city like Calaman. Back of each includes that same traveler's notes, but again, glossy, so we can probably write on here and erase them later. Next up, we have a series of single pages that represent the battle maps from the DM's perspective. So when you're running the Wheel Watch Outpost encounter, you've got the pages, but you can easily keep this, on your DM screen, maybe pinned up or next to it, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth between where you are in the booklet and what else you need, or on this particular map. Now, the map is in the booklet, but you can have this just off to the side so you always know where they're at. Also glossy, like the other maps we saw, so you might be able to mark off notes here where key NPCs are, and especially if they move around. And then just the encounter numbers, so you can see where it matches up with the text in the module. Single-sided, so again, you could maybe put something on the back here if you need to, but I see this more as a lay it down, have the book beside it, and use this to run whatever encounter you have here. Next up, we have the full version of Wake in Wrath. Now, we have one of these as a battle map, this particular one, E2. But here we have for the DM all 4 levels of the map. And again, just like before, glossy, we can mark on it. We can use it side by side with the encounter. I'm pretty sure that everything that we're going to see a battle map for in the module has a corresponding card like this. And then some of them will also probably have the battle maps if they're key to what we need. Like, for example, I know Threshold of the Heavens has these last 2 areas as a battle map. Double-sided battle map here for that. So, again, we've got this. We've got Temple of Paladine, the Raided Catacombs, the full map, Sunward Fortress, and a stack of other ones. Again, I'm not going to go through all of it. Flying Citadel. I will stop here, of course, because I like the side view. I can always get a sense of, how things are here, where they go, the steps down and so forth. But I like having this view to show us the Flying Citadel. These are the levels. And in fact, we can even see here all these different entry points if you want to use that for players to sneak into the module. So I like having a side view sometimes. So we've got that along with Camp Carrion Clay, Blue Phoenix, Blue Maul Cave, Bastion at Takesis. We have a battle map for this one. A lot of these cards, again, all leverageable for the encounters, all erasable so we can write on them as we need to take notes as the DM. Okay, and that's it. That is our full review of the contents of the Beadle and Grimm's Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen Steel Edition. What do I think? Well, I am a Dragonlance super fan, so I had no problem purchasing this the first time it was offered immediately on day one. It is a bit of a hefty price tag, but it is not something I ever expected to see, quite honestly. So I'm glad to see that they did something. Is this something you need for your game? Well, short answer is no. The longer answer is there are great tools in here that you can use to make your game prep easier. The cards, some of the handout information for your players, even the photo images can help with that. Maps, battle maps, all that can help. Most of this is encountered in the hardback, except for a few things. Tales from the Warehouse, some of the pages, giving you additional backgrounds for the festival and backgrounds for the Siege of Kalaman. Prelude to that. Beadle and Grimm's has always described their box sets as a luxury item, and clearly they are. This one, I believe, goes for $2.99 as its regular price. You might be able to get it on sale, though typically they don't sell these items on discount. With that being said, I just got an email the other day that the older Eberron box set is on 20% off discount. So if that was something you're interested in, certainly grab that up. Again, these are luxury items. They always described this as the following. If you like a band, you'll probably go out and buy their album. And you can get it on iTunes for $9.99. If you're a real super fan of that group, you might go out and get the exclusive box set that has the album digitally remastered. It's got the demo recordings. It's got vinyl, tour photographs, maybe a live concert version of the album, in DVD, all that other good stuff. And that's a premium price. Same thing here. You're getting a premium produced item for, people who are really, really big fans. I have looked covetously at the Curse of Strahd box set, and same way for the Ghost of Saltmarsh, but couldn't make myself pull the price tag on those. But when it came to Dragonlance, I had no problem plunking down some money for the Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and even the earlier Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. There's a lot of components here that can make your DMing easier, add a little bit more exciting, add a little bit of verisimilitude for your players from the handouts, from the actual items that they get to physically hold. So overall, there's definitely a lot of components here that can make your life easier as a DM. And, if you are a Dragonlance fan, if you plan on running this extensively, this is something to seriously consider. And especially if you think you can rerun this module multiple times with different groups, you will definitely get your value out of it if you can run this a second or third time. With that, I'm going to wrap up this unboxing of this particular video. So thank you for hanging in as I looked at the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen Beadle and Grimm's Steel Edition. So I hope you liked that look at the Beadles and Grimm version of the Shadow of the Dragon Queen Steel Edition. And if you like it, please consider hitting the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. It really does a lot to help the channel grow and helps YouTube figure out who else would also benefit from seeing this content. And if you can help the channel grow, you can also do so by sharing this link with someone you know who is a Dragonlance fan or D&D fan or whatever it might be. Every little bit does help. Thank you.